Okay, jumping into the RICE framework for the database team. So we now have a single source of truth, the spreadsheet for all the RICE framework for the database team. A lot of this was copied over from the doc, and Giannis did a great job of breaking it down by epics and issues. It's a good idea. So we have scores on most of these. This one we did not score. I think, oh no, we didn't score because it needs to be broken down because there's quite a bit in there.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's an urgency to break this one down because we're not going to touch it for a while. So we'll just leave that one alone. Giannis, were there issues in here that we should start scoring now? Was there any semblance of order in which you put these, or did you just drop them in?
So I just dropped them in the beginning. I tried to also link the epics so that we know which issues are in epics. And then Fabian today in our call moved the ones that have epics in the top. So the order is issues that have epics, and especially I have the two that most probably we will plan either way for 13.0, the pending audit events migration, and the second step of converting events ID. Everything else is an order there. We have to decide. And also below those, there are the two issues on the IIDs, which I assume are pretty important, and we have to discuss with them. So Andreas can provide more. Everything else is. Then there are the issues that Craig added, and I also brought in all the issues we had in our board for 13.8 and any pending issues for 13.7.
Thank you. So I guess the question is, do we want to run through this synchronously or do we want to do it async?
What do you think? So from what I've seen in the memory team, what they did was that everyone filled in their scores, and then there was you run a median there or on an average, and then
yeah, we went
everybody discussed.
async.
Yeah.
We started out async, and then the ones that were pretty close together in score, we didn't really talk about. We spent some time on the ones that were pretty far apart because there were a couple that were way far apart. So that's how the memory team did it.
So the only thing that we have is that 13.8 is pretty close, and with Friends and Family Day and everything, we will have to finalize the planning issue and decide which issues we're going to have for 13.8 and run the kickoff. So maybe, yeah, I don't know if we can at least discuss that, or we could do asynchronously the RICE exercise and also plan tomorrow, the two of us, Craig.
Mm-hmm. Pat, Andreas, any thoughts on sync versus async on this?
I find sync pretty good to, discuss any, like if there's a huge difference between things. But it might take a while to really get those numbers. So getting maybe the numbers first and then identifying what we want to talk about.
Right.
Pat?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think maybe if we just try to go through this whole list now, it would take a long time. But at the same time, I also, if I'm like being honest, scoring some of these, I really don't know what I would put. I have no idea.
That's fine too. I mean, you can always put that too, to say, I would need more information. That actually happened on a couple of memory team issues. And then those were things that we talked about synchronously. So let's do that. I think probably what makes sense, everybody just kind of make their own copy of the spreadsheet, and then we can put it on the agenda for Tuesday to come together. I think between Giannis, Fabian, and I, we can all collate on Monday and make sure that we have everybody's scores, and we can have the ones that we need to talk about on Tuesday. Sound good?
Yep, sound good.
Okay, could we go through which ones we plan to add for 13.8 so that we can move forward with the planning?
Yeah. Did you say they were already marked on here, or you want to do that now? So we have a couple that are 13.8.
Yeah, so I have added as 30.8 the ones that I assume will be in 30.8. I have not added anything else until we discuss.
Mhm.
So maybe we could go through those. I'm saying that because on Tuesday is the final deadline for the kickoff.
Oh, yikes. Okay.
Sorry, before we get into that, also seeing the next topic about those database peaks that we observe. Would it make sense to sort of keep that in mind for the next milestone as well, and sort of reserve some time for that? Because I think that is, if we continue to do it that way, there is a couple of findings that need our attention as well. We will need to spend some time on those, even if we don't have a specific issue yet or something like that. But just looking at those things, it takes time. Just to keep that in mind for capacity, basically.
Yeah. Yes, agreed. And the question I had here on this one as well is, what's the other filter we should add on here? So we're only looking at new ones. I was thinking we do like milestone is empty. Is that an option? None. Look at that. So we keep this filter so we can take a look at the ones that need to be scheduled. Oh, we lost a couple there. Which ones were they? Okay, that one's scheduled. That one's scheduled. All right. Does that make sense? And just keep an eye on the ones that are not scheduled.
Sorry.
Yeah.
All right, we'll go with that.
But I agree with Andreas. I also spent a considerable amount of time during the past 2-3 days going through everything.
Yep.
And I bet that Andreas, who was also responding, I was just following, spent way more time.
And I think many people are getting those pings, and can imagine everybody's quite looking at this stuff. And to some extent, I think it's not even clear, at least to me, what the significance of those things are. It is like those are all good findings. What is sort of the overall significance in fixing those issues? It's hard to tell until somebody looks at that. So, and that's probably going to be a good part is going to be on us, I think, to sort of help with that.
Yeah.
But sorry, I didn't want to jump topics too soon.
No, I agree. What confused me is the severity one. So everything is labeled as severity one, while not everything is identified as severity one. We have peaks, but I don't know. But I don't know how the infra dev team, labels issues. Maybe that's the way they do. For example, in our end, if we get a severity one issue, means that we stop everything and work on that. So it took me a while to understand that there is a different meaning of severity one for those issues. I don't know if you agree, Andreas, and correct.
Yeah, severity one usually means showstopper, right? Something that's just not major functionality is broken. These are all slowdown of functionality. So I agree. They're not severity ones.
Okay.
All right, should we do a quick triage of these that are available and see if we need to address them in the next milestone?
Yeah, this one is a bigger problem, I think. So just to give some context, so this is a background job that basically recalculates permissions for a particular user. So whenever something changes, you add a group, you remove a group, remove or change group membership and those kind of things, then the permissions to access those projects, they change. And what we do is basically do that in the background schedule that job, review all and recalculate all the permissions for that user, and sort of swap things out. So the job is basically two-phased. The first phase is recalculate all the permissions for all the projects that the user has access to, and then second phase is swapping out the data on the table. And what we see here is the first phase, is the read phase. And this is a very heavy query that sort of tries to catch all those cases. Lots of unions going on, and this is showing up now. And
is this the one that's being exacerbated by our one customer that is running this quite a bit and is a big comer?
it could be there is a theory there, but it's not been proven yet, I think.
Craig,
Okay.
because this is recorded, maybe you don't want to scroll down.
Yeah, I was being careful there. Okay,
Yeah,
so
for some other issues, yes, that was the problem. But yeah, and for what I can say, and Andreas can correct me, this thing with the recursive namespace queries and the other problem with permissions going all over the place is a problem we have in general with our design, and we know about it. This is exaggerated here with the authorized project worker for sure, but this is also a longer discussion. What can we do with those recursive queries?
Yeah, that's right. And for that particular topic, I can see there's two sort of things that we might want to look into. One is, do we see anything that would immediately improve that query? Because that would be the easiest, right? We add an index somewhere, something like that. Maybe hard to do, and we might, may not work out, but that's one avenue. The second one is, I split it out into a separate issue, is something that is also applicable in general about sidekick jobs. Sidekick jobs, they all go to the primary. And what we've discussed is sort of having a way to label jobs, making them or marking them as read-only jobs so they can actually use a replica. And in this context, what we're discussing is allowing the read phase of that job to go to the replica, which has certain problems with consistency because the replica can always lag. And yeah, there is we have to be sure that we're reading up-to-date data, particularly for this job, which is security, which has security implications, right? I think those are the two topics that I see for that issue. And the bigger one, like how do we actually want to calculate those permissions? How do we manage those permissions? I think that really needs to go together with the backend group, the access group. And I'm sure they already have good insight into what is happening.
yeah, looks like it's already assigned to the access group. So is there anything that we need to do in the upcoming milestone? Is there specific work we need to contribute to on this one?
We could take a look at the query just to see if there's any like levers that we can pull easily, but don't spend too much time on that.
Okay. Should we reassign this one, or should we create our own issue that's specific to researching the query itself? Seems like we should have a specific issue and leave this one with the access team. Okay.
I can do that if you want me to.
Yeah. Is this something we need to look at for 13.8? Or is this something that the ops team, sorry, continuous integration team should continue to own?
Is this the one that you added the index, that you proposed an index for, Andreas, or is this another one?
No, that's another one, I think.
Yeah, we have to check.
I think there was already a discussion going on about that in somewhere with Stan and Camille. I think.
Hmm.
Okay, and that part of that discussion that also goes in the direction of figuring out how can we move psychic jobs to use the replica. That's sort of the overarching scheme.
Okay. It looks like the CI group is on this. And there's not much we need to do here, if I'm reading that correctly.
Yeah, they can ping us and we could help them in the MR or whatever.
I'll have to look at another way to filter on this then. All right, so last one.
Yeah, those are all the pretty simple queries for record lookups. So I guess most of the time it's a one record that comes back. There is this change about to happen with the query caching.
Mm-hmm.
You know, where we enable the query cache to work together with the load balancer. And at least for those n+1 queries, that might have a good impact. And then what Jose is talking about here is, I think so. Aside from that, is like, how can we do any sort of additional caching to those queries where we don't hit the database for them? And this is obviously a bigger topic. We don't have any caching going on for that at the moment.
Okay, so sounds like it's still some research, but nothing immediately actionable for 13.8 from us.
Right.
Okay. I'm gonna figure out another way to filter those out then. Just leave that for now. So thinking about 13.8, do we just want to come back and we'll address it on Tuesday when we've gone through the first pass of the RICE framework on these?
Yeah, but what are we going to add for our kickoff video? So we should at least have the planning and something that. So
the kickoff. What's the timing? Is the kickoff video on Monday and our planning's on Tuesday? So that doesn't really work. All right then, let's look at that. So 13.8 will have the audit events deployment, but that's fairly simple work, right? It's not, there's not a lot of work going on there. And primary key issues. Are we going to bring in more of those? Because there were a few of those, right?
Yeah, let's do the this one first. So the plan. Let's make sure that this works. At least that's my understanding.
So do one and then make sure it works before we bring in the next one. Is there anything from 13.7 that's looking like it's carryover?
the audit events will go to 13.8. Am I right, Patrick? Because
Yeah.
we are blocked.
Yeah, I think the big one from 13.7, and I think we had sort of maybe as I thought we were gonna. This was being deprioritized now that we determined that wasn't the issue, but the load balancer with the transaction boundaries. Once we determined that was not what was breaking the IID issue, we were going to deprioritize that somewhat.
Yeah.
And the issue with a higher priority that we discovered was the one about internal IDs and consistency, right? Was the other team picking that up, or are we gonna look at that?
The IID one, I have not seen any
Yeah.
new comments, so we have to decide if we are going to pick it or not.
Okay.
I have it in the Excel, Craig,
Mhm.
below, it's below the other one.
Which one is it?
If you go a little bit to the left, so that you can see so it's the atomic internal ID.
Should we bring that in then?
Yeah, that's the one that's causing the problems for us with the epics.
And we are going to deprioritize the load balancer one.
Yeah, I got it on a follow-up list here. So
Okay.
I'll take a look at that one later. Did we want to talk with, which group is that? Product planning on this one?
I will reach out to them, and that's on the plan.
Okay.
I think that this should not create a new work for us or a lot of work for us for 13.8, but let's start discussing with them.
Okay. So are we blocked on this one? Are we still waiting for feedback from infra on being able to set up our own environment for testing migrations?
Yeah. Do you have any news there, Greg, or not? No. Okay.
No. They're still looking into it. They understand that we're waiting for guidance on how to set up a server, but no, there's no news on their side.
So if we want to unblock the test with production data, we should start working on that. But that may be redundant work that we will do, and then. So I'm not sure. Andreas knows more about that.
No, not really. I don't know if we wanted to add more details to sort of a design document. We've started to write this, I think, describing how we intend to do that testing. Have we finished that up? I haven't followed up with that lately.
Are you talking about the blueprint or?
Yeah.
No, I haven't touched it in a couple of weeks.
Okay, yeah. So if we wanted to use that as a means to run it by security, for example, to have them check the concept, that could work. Okay. But it might be like Yannis said, it might be just a duplicate of what infrastructure is doing, and hard to tell.
Yeah, we still need to get an update to that blueprint, however. So I'm not sure if there's an issue specific to that or if we even need one. It might just be duplicate work. But that is a valid point to bring that in. Let me ask you a different question. How much time are folks going to take off over this milestone, because that will definitely have an impact on how much work we can bring in.
Well, I'm off a week of vacation in addition to, I guess, 2 holidays.
Okay.
Yeah,
So-
Christmas and New Year's Eve are on Thursdays. So
Yep.
yeah, that's the perfect scenario for a
Actually,
week
it's on
for everyone.
Fridays.
On Fridays.
Yep. So Pat, are you out the 24th until the 4th?
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay. Yeah, I'm similarly out during those times. I think I'm taking the 23rd off as well. About Andreas and Giannis.
I haven't really put anything. Yeah, but it's similar, like you said, over the holidays.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a day before that or so, if that works out. But I'm gonna be around most of the time.
Yep.
Yeah. And I will have to check with my boss, my wife, and yeah.
Is that because she doesn't want you around, or because she does want you around? That's a very key decision
That's,
to be made.
that's the problem nowadays. I'm not sure about which way around what she wants. But yeah, joking aside, I think that if we assume that this is a milestone short by a week, this is not
Yeah.
for everyone.
Easily. And there's some, I can't remember the exact term, PCL, is that right? Production lock, production deployment lock.
Mhm.
Yeah. So there's some times where we can't ship anything anyway. Okay. So let's keep talking async about what we should bring in. Giannis, you and I can polish it tomorrow when we're talking. It sounds like there's a lot of little things that we need to do for next milestone, mostly bug fixes, improvements, and proving like the primary key migration works out fine so that we can continue on the next one. And we have reduced capacity. So we may be fairly close to what we're going to do for 13.8 based on what's in there. But yeah, I guess today, Andreas and Pat and Giannis think about and just start adding things to 13.8 if you think they should go in, and we can review it asynchronously over the next day or two before Giannis has to kick off.
Okay, and I will comment on the planning issue, Greg, so that we can continue the discussion. I assume that we more or less know what we want to do, and
Yep.
let's do the rise.
Okay,
Unrelated.
sounds good.
Yeah.
Let's see what was left. So already answered that question. Nope. Yay for the memory team update. Yep.
Yeah, if anyone, yeah, Andreas mentioned it also, but if anyone else has not seen it, it's great work.
Yeah, and it'll make it into its own release note for 13.7.
Mm-hmm.
When is that due? Is that, I think that's due tomorrow or Saturday.
Yeah, everything is a little bit earlier this month.
All right, I'll sync up with Fabian to make sure that gets in.
I think that Fabian told me that he's going to work on it, so yeah.
Perfect. I will let him. All right, that's it for agenda topics. Any other topics folks want to cover today? All right, I'll get more, the important topic. Actually, I'll hit stop on recording here if I can find it.